Hi, I'm Jessica Rowe, and I'm going to be doing a book review on the book Being with Dying, Cultivating Compassion and Fearlessness in the Face of Death. The book was written by Joan Halifax, and it was published in 2008. Halifax is a Zen priest, and she's also an anthropologist, and she has worked with dying people for more than 40 years. In 1994, Halifax actually founded the Project on Being with Dying, and this project trained hundreds of healthcare professionals to care for dying people. A lot of her work is based on the traditional Buddhist teachings, which it does say that in the book. She does talk about how she's based her teachings or based her work on those teachings. I feel like this book would be a really good source for anybody who has a family member or friend that is dying and they're caring for them, or anyone who is dying themselves, or just someone in general who has more questions about the dying process and has worries or concerns about dying, because I know a lot of people actually feared dying. In the beginning of the book, in part 1, she talks about how she grew up in the South, and the closest person she was closest to was her grandmother. And I feel like in the South, that's a really common thing. For me, I was really, really close to my grandfathers. And so I can really relate to what she talks about in this part, because she talks about her grandmother she had cancer, and my grandfather had cancer, and she also suffered from a stroke while she was already diagnosed with cancer. And she talks about how her family could not properly care for her grandmother, so her grandmother was then placed in a nursing home, and while she was in the nursing home, she did die, but Joan said that it was a slow and it was a painful death. And her grandmother's death led her to practice medical anthropology, and that's why she does what she does now. The book is broken up into 3 parts, and in each part there's so many chapters, and within each chapter she talks about a certain issue, and she has a meditation for each of them. And in part 1, there was a meditation that I really, really enjoyed. It was in chapter 4, and it was called Contemplating Our Priorities. This exercise was actually really similar to something we did in class, and it says to imagine that you're an old person on your deathbed, and it gives you various scenarios in this one. It's like you're an old person on your deathbed, and then it says, imagine that you're 10 years older than what you are now, and you're going to face death. You're 5 years older than you are now, and you're going to face death. Or you're facing death in a year, you're facing it in a month, in a week, or tonight in your sleep. And it asks, how would you want to live your life? What was your biggest blessing in your lifetime? Who would you want to share your love with for the last time? Who do you need to forgive? And for me, forgiving one person in my life would be a really hard thing for me to do. I don't know if I could ever forgive my mom for something she done. She had an affair and left me and my dad. And my mom's still in my life, but I still have problems with forgiving and letting that go, because I always feel like I'm gonna have a grudge on that, and it's something I need to learn to forgive, and I'm trying, and this book really does help with that problem. and it gives really good scenarios of how to do that, and just like it just makes you feel better, and I really enjoyed that. And in that part, in that chapter, it says death is inescapable. All beings, you and me, are heading straight into its mouth. And that is one of the realest things I've read, because nobody can escape death. It's something that's going to happen to everybody. The moment you're born, you're dying slowly. Some people are dying faster than others, and we need to think about how we want to live our lives, and that this book really helped me think about that, how I want to live my life, and how I want to make the best out of it. And it really made me want to try and forgive my mom, and that's something I'm going to work on. For me, this book was really similar to Henry Nouwen's book, Being Mortal, and I really enjoyed both of these books, the Being Mortal one and this one. I would recommend it to anyone, especially those who are curious about the dying process and those who need help when they're learning to cope with caring for someone who's dying. And for someone like me who was neither of those, but I struggle with grief from my grandfather's deaths, and I'm struggling with problems that will be a big problem when I'm facing death, which is forgiveness mostly. And I think it could help anybody like that, really. But it's a really great book, and I've really enjoyed it, and it really relates a lot to what we've done in class and the other books we've read. So